Pete, first chance we've had to catch up with you since the appointment of Russell Martin as manager. Can we get your thoughts on that and obviously the first few weeks under his reign?
Well, I'm very excited with what Russell's trying to do. I think I've given him the most difficult task. I think taking a team on in your first job is always difficult. Doing it in pre-season is the norm, and definitely I'd love him to have been able to do that this time. But I went to him. We've got a lot to thank Paul Tisdale for. Perhaps maybe that's the first question I should answer, because he did what I asked him to do, and that was to get us back into League One, and he did it at the first attempt. And I don't really want the way that it finished to really sour what had been a really great and strong relationship with somebody who I think is really good at what he does. I think if anything, it went wrong because he cared too much and he tried too hard. And sometimes it's about getting back to your identity. I've tried to talk about that before, and people can take it in a number of ways, but I think when we see it on the pitch, we all know what it means. It means the way that we expect our team to be playing, and perhaps that was the thing that was just not coming together with Paul this year, really since the start of the season, and I think the results became a result of that. I asked and talked to Russell when in fact, I want to mention that when Russell first joined the club a year ago, Paul Tisdale told me about his management ambition, and about that we would be a very good environment for him to learn. I was very aware of the badges he was on, and so there was always a feeling that Russell may be a future manager for us. And when I wanted to make the change, I wanted to do something instant. I prevaricated in the past, and perhaps that was something that didn't do us any good. So I wanted to do something the minute I felt it in my heart. And I spoke to Russell, and he could easily have said, Pete, it's too early for me, it's not quite right for me, let's get to the end of the season, let's see what happens. And no one would ever have known I'd even offered him the job. But actually, in typical Russell Martin way, he wanted to take it on. He's that kind of leader, he's that kind of man. He is the man that you would go to when you need something to happen. And the fact that he was willing to take that challenge, and we talked about the issues, we talked about the problems, we talked about the brittle nature of our team, and it's something that continues to come back and haunt us even now. But I think what we talked about was, could we over time change and get our way of playing back to more of our core identity, because that's also a big part of our culture. I've realised that as well, and we're completely on the same page when it comes to how we'd like our teams to be approaching the game. I think he's made some really wise appointments, and they're his appointments, but I absolutely back them. Luke is a really well-respected coach in football. We are very lucky to have him here, and I'm so excited he wants to support Russell in his first job. That gives us a real chance. And again with Dean, he's brought a vibe, he's brought something fresh. He's again somebody bubbling about on that bench, and together with the really strong backroom team we have, it's a challenge that he's taking on. I hope it's a challenge that he's relishing. It is really difficult when you're still losing games, but hey, we've been losing games for a long time now. What we have seen in every one of Russell's games so far is a better performance. Every time, a bit better performance. Over time, in the first half the other day, we saw when it comes together how powerful and effective it can be. I think we all did. I certainly felt that. I've got to give this the time. We're very brittle. We need to deal with that, and maybe Paul Tisdale said it would be January before we could really get it together. It might well be the case, although I know Russell's doing everything he can, because he's got a great group of players to be able to work with. But we are brittle. And we might have to deal with that in January. Russell's already talked about needing more different sorts of ammunition, and I think that's another area that we have to look really closely at. And what people probably keep forgetting is that in order to do that, in order to keep going and keep investing all the time, you need to have a really powerful business behind it. And I just want to take another moment to say the reason that we're able to make these changes, find a way of going forward, even when it continues to go wrong for us, even after a good season last year, is because of everything else that goes on in this building and the amazing work that so many people do that no one sees, nobody talks about, never their names on the websites or anything like that. But actually, it's all their work, the enormous amount of Christmas parties. I think we're catering for something like 14,500 people in December. I mean, think about that. Most of those are 3-course meals. You imagine the work and effort that goes into delivering that. And because of that work and effort, it gives us the chance to be able to think about what can we do for this team of ours. Because at the end of the day, everybody, me, you, everyone in Milton Keynes, wants and needs this team to be successful. And of course, I know it. But you've got to build it on firm foundations. And what we've also learned in the last few years is that it isn't just about winning or losing. It's about the style and the way in which you go about doing that. It's about we're famed for bringing through young players. We're famed for bringing through young managers. We're a new football club. This is part of our DNA. Let's not be frightened of that. Let's embrace it. And I think in Russell Martin and the team he's put together, I think we're up for the challenge.